All right, so have you ever walked into a Starbucks, gotten your usual latte, and thought, man, this place is everywhere? Like, seriously, how did they manage to go from a single store in Seattle to world domination? It's kind of mind blowing, right? Well, today we're diving deep into the story of Starbucks and its mastermind, Howard Schultz. We unpack how he took this little coffee bean shop and turned it into one of those Starbucks we know and love, or love to hate, depending on your perspective. We'll be looking at some original source material here, folks. Mainly Howard Schultz's own account of building the Starbucks empire. Now, full disclosure, I'm a bit of a Starbucks fanatic myself. I mean, who isn't, right? But I'm also super curious about the business side of things. Like, how do you build a brand that's both globally recognizable and, feels kind of personal at the same time? It's a real puzzle, and that's what we're going to try and solve today. So first things first, let's rewind back to the early days. Picture Seattle in the 80s, all right? Grunge music, flannel shirts, and this little coffee company called Starbucks. Now, Schultz wasn't even a coffee drinker back then. Can you imagine? The guy who built a coffee empire didn't even like coffee. I mean, I can barely function without my morning latte. It's like my brain doesn't even turn on until I'd had that first sip. And me. Anyway, Schultz was working for this kitchenware company, and he noticed that Starbucks was ordering a ton of it says drip coffee makers. So, being the curious guy, he decided to check them out, and he was blown away. Not by the coffee itself, at least not at first, but by the passion, the quality, the whole vibe. It was like these guys weren't just selling coffee, they were selling an experience. You know, this kind of reminds me of that time I tried to, start my own Etsy shop selling handmade soap. I was so obsessed with finding the perfect ingredients, the perfect scents, the perfect packaging. I wanted people to feel like they were getting a little piece of luxury, not just a bar of soap, The hell about the details, right? Anyway, Schultz was so captivated by Starbucks. He saw something special in Starbucks. This potential to be something way bigger than just a local Seattle thing. He saw a national, even a global market for their coffee. And he managed to convince the founders, landed the job as director of marketing and operations, and, well, the rest, as they say, is history. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, so he got the job. Big deal, right? Yeah, but here's where things get really interesting. A few years into his time at Starbucks, Schultz takes a trip to Italy. And it's not just any trip, folks, it's a total game changer. He's blown away by Italian coffee culture. The way people gather in these little espresso bars, the artistry of the baristas, the whole atmosphere. It's like coffee isn't just a drink in Italy, it's a social ritual, a way of life, you know? This reminds me of, when I backpacked through Europe after college. I spent like a week in this tiny little village in Tuscany, and the whole town revolved around this one cafe. Everyone would go there in the morning for their espresso and pastry. They'd chat with the barista, catch up on a local gossip. It was like the heart of the community, I totally get why Schultz was so inspired by it. So if he comes back to Seattle, all fired up with this Italian coffee vision, and he pitches it to the founders, he wants to bring this espresso bar concept to Starbucks, create this whole new experience for American coffee drinkers. And guess what? They're not into it at all. They think it's too fancy, too European, too much of a departure from their core business, which at the time was setting whole bean coffee. Can you imagine? Turning down the idea that basically makes Starbucks what it is today is like if I told my dog biscuit company, hey, let's stop making dog biscuits and start selling, gourmet cat food. It just wouldn't make sense, right? So Schultz is faced with this tough decision. Does he stay at Starbucks and, just go with the flow? Or does he follow his gut and pursue this Italian coffee dream? It's like that moment when you're at a crossroads in life and you got to choose between the safe path and the path less traveled. Scary, right? Well, Schultz, he chose the path less traveled. He decided to leave Starbucks and start his own company called Il Journal. And it wasn't easy, folks. Imagine quitting your stable job to chase a risky idea. It takes guts, you know. And of course, there's the whole money thing. Schultz had to convince investors to back him up to believe in this Italian style coffee bar concept. And they were skeptical to say the least. I mean, can you blame them? This was the 80s, folks. Espresso was this weird foreign thing, and most Americans were perfectly content with their drip coffee. It's like trying to convince people to switch from, ketchup to sriracha. It's a tough sell, right? Schultz faced a ton of rejection. He went to all these fancy investment firms, pitched his heart out, and, got turned down over and over again. He even flew to Italy thinking, hey, maybe the Italians will get it. But even they were skeptical. Like going to France and trying to sell them, American cheese. Yeah, not going to happen, right? But Schultz, he was persistent. He believed in his vision, and he refused to give up. And eventually he found the few investors who were willing to take a chance on him. And it wasn't the big shot Wall Street guys, folks. It was a group of doctors, dentists, and other everyday people who, believed in Schultz and his passion for coffee. It's like that time I tried to get funding for my dog biscuit company by pitching to, my local dog park community. Sometimes the best support comes from unexpected places, right? So with a little bit of money and a whole lot of determination, Schultz opens his first Il Journal in downtown Seattle. No. And guess what? People loved it. They were lining up for lattes and cappuccinos. The atmosphere was buzzing, and it was clear that Schultz was onto something big. It's like that feeling when you finally launch that product you've been working on forever and people actually buy it. It's the best feeling in the world, right? But then things take another unexpected turn. The original founders of Starbucks decide to sell the company, and Schultz sees an opportunity. He manages to raise enough money to buy Starbucks and merge it with Il Journal. It's a bold move, folks. I mean, he's taken on a ton of debt. He's merging two companies with very different cultures. It's a huge risk. It's like if I decided to, uh, buy out my biggest competitor in the dog biscuit world, even though they were known for super cheap artificial ingredients. It would be a gamble, right? But it was also a chance to finally bring his Italian coffee bar vision to life on a much larger scale. And that's where we're going to pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We're going to explore how Schultz transformed Starbucks, built a culture that valued employees, and navigated the challenges of going public. Stay tuned, folks, because things are about to get really interesting. Okay, so we left off with Schultz taking this huge gamble, merging Il Journal with Starbucks, right? He's got the grand vision of bringing Italian-style coffee to the masses, but, merging two companies, that's never a smooth ride. It's like trying to blend the, oil and water. They just don't naturally mix right. But Schultz, he was determined to make it work. And one of the things he focused on was building a strong company culture. He believed that if employees felt valued and respected, they'd be more invested in the company's success. It's like that time I try to motivate my, dog biscuit baking team by offering unlimited belly rubs. Maybe not exactly. You get the idea, right? Schultz implemented all these progressive policies, healthcare benefits for all employees, even part-timers, which was pretty unheard of back then, and a stock auction program, which he cleverly called Beanstalk. Come on, that's brilliant marketing, right? He wanted employees to feel like they were partners in the business, not just cogs in a machine. And this approach really paid off. Employees were happier, more productive, and customer service was top-notch. It's like that time I went to a Starbucks and the barista remembered my usual order. It made me feel like a VIP, like I was part of the Starbucks family, right? And get this, folks. Schultz's commitment to his employees even landed him a meeting with President Clinton to discuss healthcare reform. That's pretty impressive, right? Going from selling coffee beans to advising the president on national policy. It's like if I suddenly got invited to the White House to talk about, the importance of organic dog treats, I'd probably faint from excitement, right? Right. Okay, so Starbucks is thriving. Their culture's rock solid. But then comes the next big challenge. Going public. Now, going public is a big deal, folks. It means opening up your company to outside investors, which can be, kind of scary. It's like inviting a bunch of strangers to poke around your house and judge your decorating choices, right? And Wall Street, well, they weren't exactly convinced that this old coffee thing was going to be a big hit. I mean, how much could people really pay for a cup of coffee, right? It wasn't like they were selling, liquid gold or something. But Schultz and his team, they managed to win them over. They went public in 1992, and the stock took off like a rocket. It's like, at that time, I finally convinced my skeptical aunt to try a matcha latte, and she became totally obsessed. You gotta have faith in your product, right? But going public also goes with a whole new set of pressures. You're suddenly accountable to a bunch of shareholders. You gotta hit those quarterly earnings targets, and the competition, well, they're always nipping at your heels trying to steal your customers. So, like, at the time, I thought I'd cornered the market on, gluten-free dog biscuits, and then suddenly everyone and their grandma was selling them. The business world is a jungle, folks, a jungle. And in 1997, Starbucks faced a major crisis. The price of coffee beans skyrocketed because of a frost in Brazil, which is like the coffee king of the world, right? This put Starbucks in a real bind. Do they raise prices and risk alienating their loyal customers, or do they absorb the cost and take a hit to their profits? It's like that time I had to choose between using, organic free-range chicken in my dog biscuits or keeping the price affordable for struggling dog owners. Tough choices, right? In the end, Starbucks decided to do a little bit of both. They raised prices slightly, but they also implemented some internal cost-cutting measures. It was a delicate balancing act, and it wasn't easy, but they managed to weather the storm without compromising their quality or, their values. It's like at that time I realized I could save money on my dog biscuit packaging by, reusing old newspapers. It wasn't glamorous, but it got the job done right. This coffee crisis really highlighted the importance of innovation. Starbucks couldn't just rely on their core products. They had to keep coming up with new ideas to stay ahead of the game. And that's where the Frappuccino comes in. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Frappuccino. That sugary monstrosity. But hey, don't knock it till you try it right. It was a scorching hot summer in Southern California, and one of the Starbucks store managers, a guy named Don Valencia, noticed that, people weren't exactly lining up for hot coffee. They wanted something cold, something refreshing, something to beat the heat. So Don, being the innovative guy he was, started experimenting with blending coffee milk ice and, a few other secret ingredients. And boom, the Frappuccino was born. Like that time I tried to invent a, frozen dog treat by blending watermelon yogurt. And, let's just say my Don wasn't impressed. But hey, you gotta experiment to find those winning combinations right. Anyway, the Frappuccino was a massive hit. It spread like wildfire across Starbucks stores and soon it became a global phenomenon. Pretty amazing, right? A drink invented by a single store manager became one of the most popular coffee drinks in the world. It just goes to show that sometimes the best ideas come from the most unexpected places. It's like that time I got my best dog biscuit recipe from, a random comment on my blog. You never know where inspiration will strike, right? Okay, so Starbucks is conquering the coffee world. They've got their Frappuccino craze going on, but they know they can't do it alone. They need a partner with some serious muscle, someone who can help them reach an even wider audience. And that's where Pepsi comes in. Now, this might seem like an odd pairing, right? Coffee and soda. It's like me teaming up with a company that makes gourmet cat food. What do we have in common, right? But it actually made a lot of sense. Pepsi had the distribution network, the marketing expertise, and the deep pockets that Starbucks needed to really go global. And so they joined forces and launched bottled Frappuccinos. And guess what? It was another massive hit. People were guzzling those bottle fraps like they're going out of style. So like that time I partnered with a local pet store chain to sell my dog biscuits, and suddenly my sales went through the roof. Strategic partnerships can be a game changer, folks. A game changer. Now, while all this business stuff is going down, Schultz never lost sight of the importance of design. He understood that the Starbucks experience wasn't just about the coffee, it was about the whole atmosphere, the vibe, the feeling you get when you walk into one of their stores. It's like that time I spent weeks agonizing over the perfect font for my dog biscuit packaging. Details matter, people. Details. He wanted Starbucks to be a third place. You know, your first place is home, your second place is work, and Starbucks was meant to be that third place, a place where you could relax, connect with friends, or just, chill out with a good book. It's like that time I tried to create a dog-friendly lounge area in my biscuit factory, complete with comfy couches and a fireplace. Okay, maybe that was a bit ambitious, but you get the idea, right? And they really nailed it. Starbucks again known for its cozy atmosphere, its comfy chairs, its signature green and brown color scheme. They even started playing jazz music in their stores. Which, let's be honest, makes everything feel a little more sophisticated, right? It's like that time I started playing classical music in my dog biscuit kitchen, hoping it would, you know, inspire the baking team to create masterpieces. Did it work? Well, the biscuits still taste the same, but at least the atmosphere is more refined, right? But as Starbucks continued to grow, they faced a new challenge. How to maintain that small company feel, that personal touch as they became this global giant. It's like that time I realized my dog biscuit company was getting so big that I couldn't personally taste test every batch anymore. It's heartbreaking, folks, heartbreaking. They started getting criticized for being too corporate, too cookie cutter, too Starbucks view. And some of the criticism was valid, right? When you're trying to please millions of customers around the world, it's easy to lose sight of those unique, quirky details that made you special in the first place. It's like that time I realized my dog biscuit packaging had become so generic that it looked like every other brand on the shelf. That was a wake-up call, folks, a wake-up call. So how did Starbucks respond to this challenge? Well, they started focusing on, localization. They tried to adapt their stores to the local culture, incorporating design elements and menu items that reflected the community. It's like that time I decided to create a special line of dog biscuits inspired by different dog breeds. Poodles got delicate lavender-infused treats, while bulldogs got hearty, meaty bites. Gotta cater to your audience, right? They also started paying more attention to sustainability, using recycled materials, encouraging reusable cups, and sourcing their coffee beans ethically. It's like that time I realized I could use compostable packaging for my dog biscuits and save the planet one treat at a time. Every little bit helps, right? And you know what? It worked. Starbucks managed to retain its core values, its commitment to quality and community, while still, expanding its reach and becoming a global powerhouse. It's a pretty impressive feat, right? It's like that time I managed to open a second dog biscuit factory without, completely losing my mind or compromising my principles. Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but you get the point, right? So what can we learn from Starbucks' journey so far? Well, I think it shows that you can be both big and small, corporate and personal, global and local. Yeah. It's all about finding that balance, that sweet spot where you can stay true to your values while still evolving and adapting to the changing world. It's like that time I realized I could make dog biscuits that were both healthy and delicious and that appealed to both pampered pups and, dogs with discerning palates. Anything is possible, folks, anything. But the story of Starbucks doesn't end there. There's still a whole lot more to explore, like their international expansion, their forays into music and technology, and the challenges of staying relevant in a constantly evolving market. So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive where we'll unpack the last chapter of this coffee empire's journey. Now, it's going to be a wild ride, folks. A wild ride. All right, so we left off with Starbucks facing this like existential crisis, right? There's this global behemoth, but they're also trying to hold on to that warm and fuzzy neighborhood coffee shop vibe. It's a tough balancing act, folks. It's a tough balancing act. It's like trying to you train a Great Dane puppy to be a lap dog. You want them to be big and strong, but you also want them to cuddle up with you on the couch, right? And one of the ways Starbucks tried to tackle this challenge was through, what they call localization. Basically, it's the idea of adapting their stores and menus to fit the local culture. So at that time, I tried to create a, special line of dog biscuits inspired by different cities. New York dogs got these tiny, chic, organic treats, while Texas dogs got these big, hearty, barbecue-flavored bites. Got to cater to the local tastes, right? So Starbucks started incorporating local design elements into their stores, like using materials and artwork that reflected the neighborhood. They even started offering, region-specific drinks. Like in Japan, they have a green tea frappuccino, which, let's be honest, sounds way more appealing than the regular caramel monstrosity. But localization is not just about the aesthetics, folks. It's also about understanding the cultural nuances, the way people interact, the the unspoken rules of coffee etiquettes. But that time I accidentally offended my Italian friend by, ordering a cappuccino after dinner. Apparently it's a big no-no in Italy. Or who knew, right? So Starbucks had to do their homework. They had to learn about the local customs, the coffee drinking habit, the whole shebang. And they made some mistakes along the way, of course. Like that time they opened a store in the Forbidden City in Beijing. And people were like, hello, this is a sacred historical site, not a drive-through coffee joint. It was a major cultural faux pas, folks, a major faux pas. But hey, they learned from their mistakes and they kept trying to, get it right. And I think that's what's important, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to adapt, to listen to feedback, to try and be a good neighbor, even if you're a global coffee giant. Now, another challenge Starbucks faced was the whole sustainability thing. They were using a gazillion paper cups a day, and people were starting to get really concerned about the environmental impact. It's like that time I realized my dog biscuit factory was generating a mountain of, plastic packaging waste. I felt like a total ego villain, folks, a total ego villain. So Starbucks knew they had to step up their game. They started experimenting with, recycled materials. They launched reusable cup programs. They even started offering discounts to customers who brought their own mugs. So at that time, I decided to, package my dog biscuits in biodegradable bags made from cornstarch. It costs a little more, but hey, saving the planet, it's priceless, right? But being sustainable, it's not just about, using the right materials. It's also about ethical sourcing, making sure the coffee beans they buy are grown in a way that's, good for the farmers, good for the environment, good for the whole ecosystem. It's like that time I decided to, source my chicken for my dog biscuits from a local farm that treated their animals humanely. Sure, it's a little more expensive, but I could sleep at night knowing that, no chickens were harmed in the making of my dog biscuits. So Starbucks started working directly with coffee farmers, paying them fair prices and supporting sustainable farming practices. They even created this whole program called Coffee and Farmer Equity, or CAFE practices, which sounds kind of fancy, but it basically means they're committed to, doing right by the people who grow their coffee. It's like that time I started a, profit sharing program with my dog biscuit bakers because, hey, they're the ones who make the magic happen, right? And all of these efforts, the localization, the sustainability, the ethical sourcing, they all contributed to Starbucks' image as as a company that actually cared about more than just profits. They were trying to be a force for good in the world, which, let's be honest, is pretty refreshing in today's corporate landscape, right? So that time I donated a portion of my dog biscuit sales to a local animal shelter. It felt good to, give back to the community, to make a difference in the lives of furry friends. But even with all their efforts, Starbucks still faced criticism. Folks still face those haters who accuse them of being too big, too corporate, too, to everything. It's like that time I got a nasty comment on my block from someone who said my dog biscuits were, overpriced and overrated. It stung, folks. It stung. And I think it's the thing about success, right? The bigger you get, the more visible you become, the more, the more people are going to have opinions about you, whether they're good or bad. Like that time I won a local business award, and suddenly everyone I knew had an opinion about my dog biscuits, whether they had ever tasted them or not. It's the price of fame, folks. The price of fame. So what's the lesson here? Well, I think it's that, you can't please everyone. You can't make everyone happy. It's got to do what you believe is right, what aligns with your values, and, hope for the best. It's like that time I decided to stop using artificial flavors in my dog biscuits, even though some people complained that they didn't taste as chemically delicious. I knew it was the right thing to do, and eventually people came around. And that's the story of Starbucks, folks. The story of a company that started as a small coffee bean shop and grew into a global empire, all while trying to hold on to its soul, its values, its commitment to community. It's a story of challenges and triumphs, of mistakes and innovations, of trying to do good in a world that's not always so good. And I think it's a story that we can all learn from, whether we're running a dog biscuit company, a tech startup, or, just trying to navigate our own little corner of the world. It's a reminder that we can all make a difference, that we can all strive to be better, that we can all, enjoy a damn good cup of coffee while we're at it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Until then, drive safely and keep learning. I'll catch you on our next deep dive.